A quantum fluctuation can assemble a brain, including yours. Not a copy of a brain, a working one. Aware, thinking, holding a memory of a life it never lived. And here is the part that ruined a century of cosmology. Statistically, that is how you should have arrived. Not by evolution, not by birth, by accident, in the dark, complete with the memory of everything you think happened to you. You were taught a story about where you came from. The universe began, matter cooled, stars formed, then planets, then chemistry, then you. A straight line, running one direction, obeying laws you can write down. The laws are correct. That is the problem. For 150 years, physicists have taken those same laws and asked one question. What happens if you run them forever? The answer is not a heat death that ends the story. The answer is a heat death where the story starts again, badly, at random, without you. And it doesn't stay in the far future. That is what makes it a problem. The argument reaches back and makes a claim about this moment, about the person watching, about whether the last 10 seconds happened. You cannot quarantine it in deep time. It is a statement about now. Ludwig Boltzmann, Vienna, the 1870s. He built the bridge between heat and probability. Before him, the second law of thermodynamics was a rule. After him, it was a statistic. That change is what opened the door, and what walked through it was not his idea. The fluctuation hypothesis came from his assistant, a man named Schutz, in 1895. Boltzmann published it in 1896 and credited him. Boltzmann died in 1906. The consequence took another 100 years to detonate. The physicist who carries it now is Sean Carroll, Johns Hopkins, and the Santa Fe Institute. He is the one who worked out why this argument has to be refused, not disproved. Refused. Part 1 said your brain is a receiver. Part 2 asked what it receives and found the circuit that answers when you tune it. This is Part 3, and it is the one that turns around. Because if the brain is a receiver, there is a question underneath both of those films that neither one asked. Is there anything on the other end? Was there ever? By the end of this, you will have the strongest argument in physics that there is not. And then you will have the reason it cannot be believed. Those are two different things. Keep them apart. Start with the law everything here rests on. Leave a system alone and it gets less ordered. Heat spreads. Structure decays. You have never seen it run the other way. Smoke does not gather. Eggs do not reassemble. But watch the exact wording. It gets less ordered, almost always. Boltzmann's insight was that this is not a law of nature in the way gravity is. It is a counting argument. There are astronomically more disordered arrangements than ordered ones. So you land in a disordered one. Every time. Almost every time. Nothing in the mathematics forbids the smoke from gathering. It says the odds are unimaginably against it. Unimaginably against is not the same as never. Given enough time, it is the same as guaranteed. So give it enough time. Not billions of years. Something much worse. Follow the universe forward. Stars burn out. Galaxies drift apart and go dark. Black holes evaporate over timescales that make the current age of the universe a rounding error. Eventually, there is nothing left to happen. Maximum entropy. Physicists call it heat death, and the name is misleading. It is not death. It is stillness at a fixed low temperature. Forever. And forever is the word that breaks everything. because a universe in equilibrium is not frozen. It jitters. The vacuum has a temperature, and temperature means fluctuation. Wait long enough in that stillness, and things assemble themselves. Rarely. Randomly. But they assemble. You have an intuition that says this is impossible. That intuition was built on a human lifespan. It has never been tested against a number like the one coming. Now the claim itself. In that stillness, a fluctuation does not have to produce a galaxy. It only has to produce the minimum. And the minimum is not a universe. It is not a planet or a body. The minimum is a brain. One functioning brain, with one moment of experience inside it. Lawrence Schulman put that specific version into print in 1997. In 2004, Andreas Albrecht and Lorenzo Sorbo gave it the name that stuck. A Boltzmann brain. It is aware. It has a body it can feel, which is not there. It has a childhood, which never happened. It has a memory of watching a video about entropy. That memory arrived with it, fully formed, a second ago. It has no way to tell. And you need to be exact about what is being claimed here. This is not a brain in a vat. Nobody built it. Nobody is deceiving it. There is no simulation, no experiment, no observer on the outside. There is only a rule about how matter behaves, applied for long enough, producing a mind that briefly believes it has a life. That is worse than a conspiracy. A conspiracy has someone in it. Here is where intuition fails, so go slowly. Producing a Boltzmann brain is absurdly unlikely. The estimated waiting time in empty space is around 10 to the power of 10 to the power of 50 years. That number is not large in any way you can hold. It is a 1 followed by more zeros than the observable universe has atoms. So the answer is obviously no, except it is not. Count the other side. Ordinary observers, people born from stars and chemistry, only exist during a narrow window. Stars burn for a while. Then that window closes and never reopens. The fluctuation window does not close. It runs forever. A vanishingly small rate, multiplied by infinite time, beats an enormous rate multiplied by a finite one. Every time, without exception. So the arithmetic delivers a verdict, and the verdict is about you. Across the full history of a universe like ours, observers who fluctuated into existence outnumber observers who were born. Not slightly. By a factor with no name. Which means, if you know nothing else about yourself, you should assume you are one of the many, not one of the few. You should assume your memories are noise that arrived complete, that the room around you was never there, that this ends in a moment, because a fluctuation that's small dissolves almost immediately. Lisa Dyson, Matthew Claiborne, and Leonard Susskind put this in a paper in 2002. The title said everything. Disturbing implications. Physicists do not usually name papers like that. And notice what they were disturbed by, not the strangeness of the idea. They were disturbed because the theory was making a prediction about who is reading it. That is not a thing theories are supposed to do. You are used to physics predicting orbits and half-lives. Here, it predicts you and gets you wrong. For most of the 20th century, this stayed a curiosity. Then the sky answered. In 1998, 2 teams measured distant supernovae and found the expansion of the universe accelerating. Something is pushing space apart. Call it dark energy, which is a label, not an explanation. If it behaves as a cosmological constant, the universe does not wind down and stop. It expands forever, at a fixed low temperature, in the state physicists call de Sitter space. That's exactly the condition the fluctuation argument needs. The observation that made modern cosmology work is the same observation that made this problem unavoidable. You cannot separate them. They came in the same measurement. Two teams went looking for the deceleration of the universe. They found the opposite, and it won a Nobel Prize. Nobody realized at the time what else they had handed over. The paradox came free in the same data. Bring the series into this, because it changes shape here. Part 1 made a claim about you. Your brain is not producing consciousness. It is receiving. Part 2 found the tuner and showed it could be turned. Magnets, robots, prayer, all landing on the same circuit. Both films assume something without stating it, that there is a world for the receiver to sit in. The Boltzmann argument removes that assumption. A fluctuation brain has a receiver. It has the full apparatus, every circuit intact, the tuner working perfectly. There is simply nothing outside it. No room, no signal, no transmitter. Nothing but equilibrium in every direction, for longer than the word forever usefully covers. The antenna is real. The sky is empty, and the antenna cannot tell. That is the entire point of an antenna. It reports what arrives. It has no way to distinguish a signal from a fault in itself. You have been assuming your whole life that a vivid experience implies a source. It does not. Now try to rule it out. You will find you cannot. Look around the room. That is not evidence. A fluctuation produces the perception, not the room. Check your memories. Also not evidence. They arrived with you. Ask someone else. They are part of the same fluctuation, and they will agree with you, because agreement is cheaper to produce than a world. Run an experiment. The result is generated at the moment you observe it. Every test you can construct is a test conducted inside the thing you are testing. This is what makes it different from ordinary doubt. Ordinary doubt has an exit. You go and check. There is no outside here to check against. That is not a gap in your evidence. It is the structure of the claim. You have met unfalsifiable ideas before and learned to dismiss them. Be careful applying that reflex here. This one did not arrive from someone with an agenda. It fell out of thermodynamics, uninvited, and nobody has been able to send it back. It is unfalsifiable the way your own past is unfalsifiable. From the inside. Sit with what that means for the thing you trust most. Your memory is not a recording. It is a reconstruction. Run fresh each time you use it. You already know this is true. You have been confidently wrong about your own past. A Boltzmann brain's memories are not false in a way it could detect. They are the same kind of object yours are. A pattern in matter, present now, referring to a past it cannot inspect. The difference between you and the fluctuation is not in the memory. It is entirely in whether the past it points at happened, and the memory itself has no access to that. You are trusting a document that cannot be compared to anything. Think about the oldest memory you have. You were very young. Almost nobody who was there can confirm it. You believe it anyway, and you should. But notice what you are doing. You are treating a pattern in your head as a report about the world, because you have nothing else to treat it as. That is exactly the move a fluctuation would make, with exactly the same confidence. Now the objections, and there are real ones. Take them in order. The first is that the counting is broken. To compare infinite sets of observers, you need a rule for how to count them. Cosmologists call this the measure problem, and it is unsolved. Change the counting rule, and the answer changes. Some rules produce a universe drowning in Boltzmann brains. Others do not. Nobody knows which rule is correct. Nobody knows whether the question is even well posed. Raphael Busso and Ben Fry Vogel showed in 2007 that the paradox depends on how you describe the multiverse globally. That is not a rebuttal. It is a demonstration that the argument sits on ground nobody has surveyed. The second objection is that the vacuum may not last. The fluctuation argument needs eternity. It needs a stable, empty, forever de Sitter space. But the vacuum may not be stable. If it can decay, the clock stops. And there is a stronger version. Several physicists argue that fluctuations in a true vacuum never assemble anything at all, that nothing is there to do the assembling, that the whole picture confuses a mathematical possibility with a physical event. That case is not settled either. It is being argued in journals right now. Notice what both objections have in common. They attack the machinery, not the logic. If the machinery holds, the logic holds. And nobody has taken the machinery apart. That is the honest state of it. Not refuted and not confirmed. Load-bearing and unresolved for 20 years. You will find people online who say it was debunked years ago. Ask them which paper. The third objection is the one people reach for first, and it is weaker than it sounds. You could say, I have been here for hours, so I am not a momentary fluctuation. That does not work. The memory of those hours is part of what fluctuated. But there is a real version of this. A Boltzmann brain is overwhelmingly likely to be minimal. The smallest fluctuation that produces one moment of experience is vastly more probable than one that produces a stable, coherent, persisting mind. So a fluctuation brain should not last. It should dissolve back into equilibrium almost at once, which produces a taste of a kind. If the next second is coherent, you are probably not that. But run it forward. You have to keep passing that test, second after second, forever. You have never once failed it. That is either evidence, or it is exactly what a lucky fluctuation would report. And you have no way to weigh those two. You would need to know the odds before you started, and the odds are what is in dispute. This is the point where most people stop reading and go outside. That is a reasonable response. It is not an answer. Part 2 ended on something that does not fit this at all. Hold the two side by side. Terminal lucidity. A brain with severe physical loss, returning briefly, hours before death. The antenna reading was that the tissue only has to work for a moment for the signal to come through. The Boltzmann reading runs the opposite direction. There is no signal. There is only structure, appearing complete and then degrading. One says the memory came back from somewhere. The other says it was assembled on the spot. From inside the room, those two look identical. That is the whole difficulty of this series in one example. Both readings predict a person saying a name correctly, hours before the end. Neither reading can be checked by the person saying it. This is where most people expect the escape hatch, that it is only philosophy. It is not. It is a working constraint in cosmology, and it does labor. Here is how physicists use it in practice. If your model of the universe predicts that most observers are fluctuations, your model is in trouble. Not because you can go and check, because the prediction disagrees with the fact that you are reading this coherently. The Boltzmann brain count has become a filter. Models that fail it get modified or abandoned. An argument you cannot test has become a tool for rejecting theories you can. That is a strange thing for physics to contain. It is also load-bearing. Which brings back Sean Carroll and the best answer anyone has produced. In 2017, he published a paper called Why Boltzmann Brains Are Bad. His argument does not attack the physics. It attacks whether the conclusion can be held. Suppose you conclude you are a fluctuation. Follow that through. If you are, your reasoning is noise. Your memory of the argument is noise. The physics you used to get there was never learned. The conclusion destroys its own support. Believing it removes every reason you had for believing it. Philosophers call this cognitive instability, a position that cannot be true and justifiably believed at the same time. Carroll's move is precise, and it is not a dodge. He does not say the theory is false. He says a theory like this is unworthy of belief, and that we should reject cosmological models that produce it. Not because the evidence is against them, because they saw off the branch every piece of evidence is sitting on. Sit with how unusual that is. Physics normally rejects a theory by measuring something. Here, it rejects one, because the theory, if true, would make measurement meaningless. That is not a loophole. It is the only tool available when the theory is about the reliability of the person holding it. You are allowed to find that unsatisfying. Carroll does too. He published it anyway, because it is the strongest thing anyone has. 3 films, 3 questions. Take the answers together. Part 1. Is your brain generating consciousness or receiving it? The evidence pointed at receiving. Part 2. What is it receiving? A circuit, mapped and reproducible. A tuner, and no confirmed transmitter. Part 3. Is any of it there? The arithmetic says probably not. And the arithmetic cannot be believed. Look at the shape that leaves. You cannot prove the world is there. You cannot prove your memories happened. That has not changed since Descartes, and it will not change. What has changed is why you carry on anyway. Not faith. Not stubbornness. Structure. You are forced to assume the world is real because the alternative erases the reasoning that produced it. That is not comfort. It is the only stable place to stand, and it happens to be where you already are. You did not arrive at that position by thinking. You were standing there before the question was asked. What this series has done is show you the ground under your feet. It has not moved you. The antenna, the tuner, the empty sky. None of it changes what you will do in the next hour. It changes what you know about the floor. So, the fluctuation could have made you. The mathematics says something like, it makes far more minds than birth ever did. Nobody has taken that mathematics apart. The only thing standing between you and that conclusion is that you cannot hold it without destroying it. You exist by refusal, not by proof. That is a thinner floor than you were promised. It is also the one every scientist has been standing on since the beginning. They just never had to look down. Nothing in your day requires you to look down, either. The floor holds regardless. But you have looked now. That does not come off. Send this to someone who has never had to think about it. Watch what it does to them. Then ask them the only question that matters here. Not whether they are real, whether they can find a reason to believe it that survives being examined. This is Codex Origin. Stay strange.